Back when I was in school, a lot of animators would throw around this phrase: 2D animation isn't dead, it's just taking a power nap. The implication being that many people think 2D animation is dead, and others think that it'll make a comeback. It's an idea that never really sat well with me, and it came to mind the other night as I started watching Netflix's new animated series, Hilda. Just look at this, it's gorgeous. And this is just one of many incredible 2D animated shows on streaming services and TV that are still releasing and being made today. 2D doesn't need a comeback, and it certainly isn't dead. It's alive and well and thriving. Off the top of my head, I can personally name a ton of modern animated shows that I love. Hilda, Bojack Horseman, Legend of Korra, Archer, Rick and Morty, Teen Titans Go, Disenchantment, Young Justice, Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Gravity Falls. Not only are all these shows well written for their given genre, and all telling quite interesting stories, but for the most part they all have different aesthetics and they reach out to a variety of audiences. In my opinion as an animator, and I know the goofy stuff I do on here doesn't live up to what any of these shows have accomplished, the main reason to make something animated is to tell a story that you couldn't otherwise tell in live action. And also obviously because 2D animation can just be a really beautiful storytelling format. And I know with modern CGI, storytellers, given the right time and a good budget, can do pretty much anything. But on platforms like TV and even YouTube, especially if you're trying out a no-name or lesser-known franchise or concept, it can be hard to get money to do something like a fantasy show full of crazy monsters and creatures, or a wild sci-fi adventure, or even a show where half the people are anthropomorphic animals. I would not want to see that live action on TV. Ever.
Those are the dumbest words I've ever heard.
I know.
And I'm not a dope. I know that generally when people say 2D animation is dead, they're talking about the classic, epically illustrated Disney Renaissance type movies. And yes, it is sad that none of these are in production to hit theaters anytime in the near future, although it looks like we'll be getting some hand-drawn stuff in the new Mary Poppins movie, which looks amazing, and I'm very excited for. Personally, one of my favorite films of all time is The Princess and the Frog, and in fact, when that one was released in 2009, Disney said they were going to be doing a new 2D hand-drawn film every 2 years, but they quickly scrapped that idea when the follow-up film, Winnie the Pooh, was met with a lukewarm reception. And while it's okay to mourn the loss of the theatrical 2D animation experience, it doesn't mean we should turn our noses up at wonderful stories coming out of shows like Bojack Horseman and Hilda. In fact, let's look at those two specifically for a moment, because they do a great job representing the vast range of tales being created through 2D animation on TV. Bojack is an incredible philosophical dive into the life and problems of an alcoholic, drug-abusing celebrity after his prime.
Nothing on the outside, nothing on the inside.
It hits hard on big social issues such as pharmaceutical abuse, feminism, and celebrity news versus real news, and it does so while being both genuinely clever and devastatingly emotional. It has a stiff, rigid style of animation that's actually done in a similar way to how I do the animations on my channel, building out separate limbs for each of the characters, putting them together, and then keyframing the movements. It's a style that works for the show because it's not an action or adventure show, so the characters rarely need to make any kind of dynamic movements. And even with rigid models, it still manages to be a nice looking show with characters that have textured designs that keep them from looking bland and uninteresting. The animations won't likely blow anyone away, but they're exactly what they need to be to tell Bojack, Diane, Todd, Mr. Peanut Butter, and Princess Carolyn's often goofy and simultaneously depressing stories. Switching gears completely, Hilda is a gorgeously hand-drawn fantasy show for all ages about a girl who's struggling with her mother's decision to move them out of the mystical, creature-filled wilderness and into a bland modern-day city. It's about a child learning lessons through her adventures, and even though the main character is a young kid, her goals and desires and fears are often relatable to someone of any age, making the show just as interesting to watch for adults as it is for kids. Although, admittedly, I'm saying this not having finished the season, so hopefully the show doesn't take some kind of left turn into mediocrity later on. Anyway, the show's frame-by-frame animation with simple characters and textured lines is absolutely gorgeous to watch and demands your full attention. And it's a brilliant updated visual representation of the comic it's adapted from. Now look at those two together. One show is heavily targeted at adults and the aging millennial generation who has fallen more and more in love with the philosophy of Nietzsche, and the other is an incredibly imaginative, optimistic show that's really for anyone at all, though targeted at kids. And these are just two examples of the dozens of animated shows that stretch out into tons of genres. Anyone can go looking for and find an animated show that speaks to them. And as an aside, I just want to re-emphasize how beautiful I think Netflix's show Hilda is. I highly recommend you go check it out. Like right now. I give you permission to stop watching my video and go watch it. Not that you need my permission to... You know what I mean. And if you do watch Hilda or Bojack Horseman or Legend of Korra or Gravity Falls, I can't imagine you'd then turn around and still be able to say 2D animation is dead or taking a power nap. It really is thriving. Animation has even found its way back onto YouTube in a big way through the storytime animation genre. And sure, you could argue that these aren't quote-unquote real animations, as they're essentially animatics because most of them are just still images. But it's still a more creative and interesting way for people like Odd Ones Out or Domix or Tim Tom to tell the stories that they're trying to tell about their lives instead of, I don't know, trying to do some kind of live reenactment. And it's certainly more interesting than them just sitting in front of the camera reading. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is that just because the 2D animation we're getting isn't the incredibly grand, hand-drawn features of the 90s, that doesn't mean 2D is dead or dying or in need of a comeback. It has evolved, and personally, I love what it has evolved into, and how individuals on YouTube can produce great content and shows and videos that's better than a lot of what we used to get on TV even in the 80s. And this is actually something that Teen Titans Go does a great job parodying, so I'll leave you with this clip.
We're in the tower, but it's been altered.
Holy hard drives, so have we.
Our heads are proportional to our bodies now. But I can only move my head and arms.
Only the eyes and the mouth are doing the movements.
Our appearance, movement, and speech have all been altered.
Ooh, looking good! Like real superheroes!
What have you done to us, you wretched rapscallion?
I've put you in the very first Teen Titans cartoon, when you clowns used to be good.
If it's so good, why can we barely move?
Because the budgets for old cartoons were so low, they didn't have the money for fancy animation. It has a certain charm, don't you think?
I can only turn into one animal, yo!
Release us, or suffer the consequences.
Not until you've learned to appreciate the quality of this classic cartoon. Enjoy your adventure, Titans! I think this is going to be your best episode to date. Freak out!
Curses!
Thanks for watching, everybody, and please subscribe if you like this stuff, and thanks to my old subscribers for sticking in there while I try out this new format. But come back next week to check out my next video. I am releasing videos weekly again. I just haven't quite decided what day they're coming out on. I think it'll be Mondays, but we'll have to see. Anyways, thanks for watching, everybody.